Muy bien, chicos. I know you're in Spanish 3, and you're thinking to yourself, I already know my numbers. But it's always a good time to review right away at the beginning and go over even the larger numbers beyond 100. We're going to look at how to write them out, paying attention to some spelling, and again, how to read larger numbers as well. Use your sheet from class today to follow along and fill out. 1 a 10. Probably one of the first things you learned in Spanish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know you know how to say them, but make sure you know how to spell them, paying attention to the E-I combinations in some of these words. So go ahead and copy these down, pause, and then you can move on. 11 a 19. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 all have their own words. Careful of spelling, especially 12 and 13. When you read them, they're confusing sometimes for students. So just make sure you know the difference and write them correctly. 16 a 19, you'll see that they have two spellings. Essentially, the first spelling, the I, acts as the and that you see in the second spelling. It's just one word. You can do these with 16 through 19, and again, you'll see the same combination in your 20s. Both are accepted. You'll see both, so please be familiar with both. Pause, copy this down, and then move on. 20 a 100. 20. This is the only one of the numbers after, or in the tens, that you can add that E as well to. You could still write it out with an and, like you'll see in the rest of these, when you're doing the numbers 21 through 29, but you can still combine the 20 as well. Notice when you do that, you drop off the E. 21, 22. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Copy them down correctly. Notice that 100 is only used when it's exactly 100 on the dot. 101 through 199 will use a different word. Pause, copy it down, and then move on. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. These are your hundreds. All of them end in an S except for ciento. That would just always end in just an O. Be careful of spelling. Quinientos I know is a tricky one, and sometimes even novecientos as well. When you're doing numbers beyond this, 201, 325, 498, you do not add an and. So for example, 201 would be 201. Okay? Pause, write them down, and then move to the next slide. 1000, millón. Mil is 1,000, millón is 1,000,000. You'll see decimal points. That's explained on the next slide. You can add these notes either at the bottom of your sheet or on the back of your sheet, whatever works out best. But you should know that decimal points are used instead of commas when writing numerals out in Spanish. Okay, so 1,234,567, those have the decimal points. Now, some of you are going to ask, yes, commas are used in place of decimals, but you don't really need to worry about that. Sometimes you'll see it, but I wouldn't worry about it. Right now, know when you're writing larger numbers out, use a decimal point. E, the word and, is only used after the tens when saying or writing numbers. So after 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Otherwise, leave that and out. Hundreds can match any noun that you're describing in gender. So you wrote down from the previous slide, doscientos. Well, that would change to doscientas if you were talking about something feminine. Obviously, it's plural because there's 200 of them. 200 plumas, 500 casas, It's not as common, but you'll see it every once in a while, so make sure that you know that that OS can change to AS. Now it's time for a little practice. There's 3 numbers here that I want you to write out in numeral form, okay? So make sure you pause so you're not just looking at the answer and you can actually just see how you did. So you have 4,987. So 4,000, let's start with 4,000. You know it's 1,000, that's a decimal. 900, 900. 87, 7. 4,987. Easy, see? Then we have 118,531. Okay, so 118,000. 118,531. Bien? I think so. Last practice one before you're on your own. 624,313. Pause, give yourself a second. So we have 624,000. There's my 1,000. 313. Is that 3 or 13? 13. Bien? Super bien. Now, go ahead on that far right column, finish up your tarea. You're just writing out those numbers in words using what you just learned. Bien, buena suerte, hasta mañana.